What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the Spike ER, which is an air-to-ground missile featured on a lot of different helicopters in War Thunder, and also talking about a couple of the other air-to-ground missiles that we could see come to the game. Now, the missile that we are using in this game, in this video, is the Spike ER. We are also using the French Tiger, which has 8 Spike ER missiles. Now, the Spike ER missile is a very weird missile in my personal opinion. It's an amazing missile to be used against enemy helicopters and to be used against enemy AA, but it can be a little bit tricky to use successfully against tanks. Now, obviously, this missile has a lot of different pros and a lot of different cons. One of the main pros being, obviously, that it is fire and forget, meaning your helicopter doesn't have to stay in the line of danger to fire missiles. You just need to be up for 2 seconds, lock, fire, and then, well, obviously, you can fly away. Comparing to other missiles like the Valkyr or the Hellfire, which have to be guided in by laser, meaning your helicopter is in the line of sight of the enemy for longer. But the Hellfire and Valkyr have a lot of pros over the fire and forget Spike ERs, one of which is that they actually will, kill targets. The biggest con of the Spike ER is its low penetrating round. You have a very hard time killing AA. You're going to find that you get a lot of crit hits, and a lot of times you won't even be able to get the kills. Even when you double fire, sometimes it won't always work. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't run the Spike ERs. Honestly, I personally think the best way to fly a helicopter with Spike ERs is running a mix, running 4 Spike ERs and 4 Hellfires. For this video, I only decided to use the Spike ERs, but that is actually a pretty decent option, using the Spike ERs against enemy helicopters and against enemy AA, and using an AGM-114K against hard targets like tanks. So obviously, with fire and forget missiles being only found on a couple of helicopters, being all Tigers and the Israeli Pave Hawk, or Spike Hawk, as it's more famously called, but really it's just an attack helicopter. The Spike ER is not very well known. Not a lot of people play helicopters, and we should possibly be able to see more fire and forget missiles as the game progresses. Now, the issue with why we don't see them already, and why I don't think we'll see them for at least a bit longer, is honestly because the fire and forget missiles are very, very good in comparing to the Spike ER. The fire and forget missile I'm talking about is, of course, the AGM-114L. If you guys are familiar, it is an AGM-114K, basically, except that it is a fire and forget model of the Hellfire. Now, the Hellfire, if you guys are familiar with it, is a much more faster air-to-ground missile, and it has a lot more penetration and explosive mass over the Spike ER. And basically, it would make the Hellfire, that would be the best air-to-ground missile possible for helicopters. It'd be a fire-forget AGM-114K, which is already a very, very good air-to-ground missile. I think the big reason we don't see it right now is, like I said, it's a fire and forget Hellfire. Hellfires are fairly balanced in terms of gameplay because you have to laser guide them, but they're pretty much almost always guaranteed kills when you're able to aim them properly. And that's another con with the Spike ER, is you can't decide where it's going to hit the enemy. You have to fire and then, well, forget, whereas you can manually guide a Hellfire or a Valkyr to hit certain parts of a tank, rather it be at the roof or the weak spots in the turret, which is actually a great way to get kills with those missiles that are laser guided. But obviously with the Spike ER, you have to let the missile's optic decide where it's going to hit, and you have no say over that. Again, really when it comes down to gameplay, I do think Spike ERs actually are the better missile to bring in terms of ground RB, just because they offer such a much more better survivability for your helicopter. You're at least going to be able to fire off a couple, and even against an AA, if you fire it off, you're probably going to end up killing that AA. Other helicopters like the Apache or the Ka-52 have to sit there and manually guide them in. Also, if I haven't mentioned it already, another big con of the Spike ER is it's very, very slow. It's a lot more slower than a Hellfire or a Valkyr. And what that can honestly make that happen, what honestly makes that so bad, is that, like, you have to, the missile's going to be in the air for a lot longer, meaning there's a lot more time for the AA to kill you. Now, if you see in this clip here, there's 2 enemy helicopters, and I actually end up firing spikes on each of them, and actually end up getting both of them. The spikes are very, very good against helicopters. They're also very, very good on ground, like very, very good on a ground launch platform against helicopters. So if you ever have the Puma with spikes, those are very, very good at shooting down helicopters. And I've even seen them used against low-flying aircraft, but I haven't really attempted that yet, so I can't really confirm if it's a viable option or not. Really, realistically speaking, I think in the game for the future of War Thunder, I think we will see fire and forget missiles once we see a rework of CAS in either ground RB or in separate game modes, because a missile like the AGM-114L would absolutely be game-breaking in terms of helicopters, because it really is a 2 times better Spike ER. And I think the reason why the Spike ER right now is so balanced, because even though it's fire and forget, it's very slow, has low penetration, and it's very unlikely to one-tap things. Realistically, if you guys have the Tiger helicopters in either Germany or France, my suggestion to you is running 4 Spike ERs, 4 AGM-114Ks, and then either Mistral or Stingers. I prefer Stingers. In this video, I tried the Mistrals. I did not enjoy them at all. I prefer the FIM-92 Stinger, which is an air-to-air missile option you get. And if you're playing, I think the best helicopter to run fire and forget missiles on is still going to be the Israeli Blackhawk, because the Israeli Blackhawk carries 16. You only get 8 on the Tigers. And when you can carry 16, you can carry an 8 and 8 loadout, basically meaning you can fire off, you have 8 fire and forget and you have 8 laser-guided missiles. But overall, you could also just run 16 and double fire on everything. As far as the double firing technique goes, it's basically where you fire 2 Spike ERs at a single target. I don't like to do that because they do occasionally get one taps, and even in some of these shots you see, I do shoot 2 of them and it fails to kill the target with 2 hits. It really comes down, I think the best way to get the kills with the spikes is to, kill off all their crew. That's the way that I see that I get the most kills, is by crew knocking them. So that's where the 2 missiles come in kind of handy. One will tend to take out turret crew, and then the second one will take out everyone left, like the driver. And again, you can't aim the Spike ER because it's fire and forget, so you can't decide where it's going to aim. Whereas if you're shooting on like an Abrams, you might, with a laser-guided missile, aim for right underneath the turret. Or if you're shooting at a Russian aircraft, aim for super low and try to ammo rack it. It's hard to do that when you can't do that. So it just makes it where you have to fire them off and just let them do their thing. Honestly, I want to know what your guys' thoughts are and what your opinion is on the Spike ER. Do you guys think it's a balanced missile? Do you think it should remain in the game? Do you think it needs to be removed? I don't really think there's any reason for it to want to be removed. I'm just saying, I know a couple people who are very frustrated with CAS, and they think that helicopters need more balancing. Honestly, helicopters right now are pretty fine. I think the Spike ER is a very well-balanced missile. I don't think there's anything broken about it, but I want to know what your guys' thoughts are, so let me know down below in the comments. Please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Only about 7% of my current viewers are subscribed, and it really does help out the channel. And if you guys want to see a certain video, make sure to comment what you guys want to see down below in the comments. Also, the Discord will be linked in the description as well if you guys are interested in joining that. And I hope to catch you guys in a future video.